Just going to settle in here for a second. Dealing with all sorts of lighting issues and hair issues, but what else is new? This is how I look. This is how it's going to be, people. Sorry. I apologize in advance. I apologize concurrently. I'm going to go live now on Instagram. I think we're all ready. What do you guys think? Hey, Will. Think we should go live on Instagram? The lighting situation in here is unfortunate. But it's fine. All right. Getting ready to go live. You guys are in on this. It's like the little preamble. Hey, Tatiana. Hey, Will. We're going to go live. And we're live. What's up, Instagram? What's up, YouTube? Aristotle Full Throttle here, and we're live. We're talking about adventure movies today because we're excited. We're excitable. We're very, we're not even worn one bit by this quarantine situation. It's fine. It's totally fine. Everything's fine here. Everything's good now. How are you? That was sort of Han Solo from Star Wars. Sorry, I was just on the phone with the guy from the car place because, you know, I'm calling all the places that I send a monthly check to because it's a pandemic and I cannot work right now. Cannot work. And they said, we'll allow you 30 days. 30 days. It is like 30 days, guys. 30 days that's when they're lifting the freaking stay-at-home regulations. What's up, everybody? We're just talking about how to call people and negotiate your bill. Because this is what we have time to do now. Also, we're talking about adventure movies. If you like those. If you're like me, you like adventure. And you like to go on it. Or if you don't like to go on an adventure, and you'd rather vicariously go on an adventure through someone in a movie, you came to the right place. Or the wrong place. You came to a place today. Hopefully you find yourself here. This is pretty much the bar that we've come to, guys. What's up, Jimmy James? Hey, Judy. Waving, thumbs upping. I like it all. I've got a giant mug today, a goblet, if you will. Goblet. If there was a cake here, I'd goblet. Thank you. We're also on YouTube, AristotleFullThrottle.com. Go there, subscribe, and join in on the daily fun that we have here. Every day at noon, we've got some regulars. Will, Tatiana, Jimmy James, Judy. Cool glasses, dude. Thanks, Juvens. I see you. Hey, Kelsey. What's going on, guys? Adventure movies. What say you on adventure movies? I grew up watching movies like, of course, Star Wars. What is that but not a space adventure? I'd call it a space fantasy adventure. But, you know, we also have Pirates of the Caribbean, which I like the first one. The second two movies, though, I gotta say, those second two Pirates of the Caribbeans, they were like trying really hard to be good. And you know what? They almost were. It was almost worth the effort of trying to really hard to be good. It's not easy. It's not easy when you're a visionary director and everything is very visionary and you're like, this is almost unwatchably visionary. The second two movies. So much cool stuff, but not good. Kind of like Prometheus. Prometheus is a space adventure that's almost good. Maybe we should talk about movies that are almost good. Giant, almost good movies. Like Waterworld. Who here likes Waterworld almost? Raise your hand if you're feeling lukewarm. Or don't. Maybe. Give us a meh. Lackluster people in the house say meh. Meh. I think that should be the cheer. Romancing the Stone. That is a good one. Romancing the Stone. Was that directed by Danny DeVito? I know Danny DeVito is in it. Romancing the Stone, and then there's a sequel. Tatiana brings up Romancing the Stone with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. All right. We've got some lackluster people in here saying, meh, awesome. I mean, all right, ish. We've got, yeah, Romancing the Stone. Isn't there a sequel to Romancing the Stone, or is Romancing the Stone the sequel to a movie? I remember that. I think it has a lot of 80s tropes, like a lot of a guy falling down into a woman's cleavage and going, oops, which I saw as recently as Avengers Age of Ultron, which is classy. It's a classy move by Joss Whedon, which Joss Whedon does that in 2 of his movies, actually. The old guy accidentally falling into cleavage trick. Very classy. Robert Zemeckis directed. Oh, yeah, Robert Zemeckis, man. He was kind of like the 80s and 90s Steven Spielberg, even though Steven Spielberg was the 80s Steven Spielberg, and Robert Zemeckis was the 90s Steven Spielberg with Forrest Gump. Because Steven Spielberg, his last amazing movie, no, change my mind on this. There's construction in my living room right now. Change my mind on this. Steven Spielberg, his last good movie. What was his last good movie? Because he makes a lot of adventure movies. His last great movie. His last great movie. I'm looking, I see Bumblebee. You know what? My friend told me to watch Bumblebee the other day. And he's a big Transformers guy. And he told me that I would like it, even though I hate Michael Bay. Because Michael Bay didn't direct it. So I want to see Bumblebee. I hear it's got hot. What's up, Jay Bogdanovich? I'm waving to you. We were all waiting for you, actually. We were wondering when you would show up. Thanks. Did you bring donuts? I hope you brought coffee. I brought coffee and a giant goblet. Jewel of the Nile is the sequel. How come they didn't make like 20 movies of those? Any movies, like any more movies, I mean. Bumblebee is fun, says Will. You know, we're still wondering, I'm still wondering, actually I have the answer. What is Steven Spielberg's last great film? The last great film that he made? Balto. No, I don't even know. Did he make Balto? I think he did. I haven't seen that one. The Siberian Husky. I love huskies. You know, huskies, they have to run all day. They've been bred to run in Iditarod. They've been bred to run for 8 hours a day in the freezing cold, pretty much, or like the chilly weather, in the snow. And people, when I go around LA, because I live in LA, it's right outside my window, I see people with huskies, and I'm like, why do you bring a dog that's supposed to be, that wants to be in the snow running for 8 hours a day to the heat and let him sit around the yard? That is not good husky ownership, I'm just going to say. Balto. No, he didn't direct. Was that John Bluth? Simon Wells directed Balto. What was the dog animated movie that Steven Spielberg did? Warhorse, says Jay Exantis. AI. Terminator Dark Fate. Terminator Dark Fate. I'm pretty sure that Steven Spielberg may not have. He could have. Treasure of the Sierra. Change my mind on this, guys. Catch Me If You Can. That actually, you know, Will. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good one. Catch Me If You Can. That is a really. Oh, you might have thrown a monkey wrench into this whole thing. I'm gonna say it's Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park was the last like game-changing movie that he made. It was definitely not Terminal, even though Terminal is fine. It's fine. It's got Tom Hanks. It's got America's Ukrainian dad, or whatever that movie's about. It's about a guy stuck in an airport. We should all watch that and getting a call. Sorry, guys, my car company is calling me right now. I was talking to them on the phone earlier about how to... I'm like, hey, guys, maybe we can have some little wiggle room here. There's a pandemic. I don't know if you heard. And they were like, we'll give you 30 days. I'm like, okay. In 30 days, that's when they lift the stay-at-home order, basically. You guys... Hey, you guys... It's crazy. I don't know. I'm like, give me like 5 years. He didn't direct Terminator Dark Fate, but it was put in the movie that wanted to be good. Oh yeah, Terminator Dark Fate. That's a good point. If today's show is turning into movies that are almost good and lackluster, yeah, Terminator Dark Fate has its moments. But you know what my problem with Terminator Dark Fate is? And it's an adventure. That's how you say adventure. This is it is definitely an adventure movie that takes place in LA. Why do they still hang out in LA? Well, I guess it's in Mexico City, this one, or Oaxaca, Mexico. But why stay in the same part of the world even? Because they want it to aesthetically match Terminator 2. Every sequel after Terminator 2 wanted to be Terminator 2. Which is, Terminator 2 didn't want to be Terminator 1, even though it kind of, so to speak, borrows the same skeleton of the first movie. But it kind of flips different tropes and does it on a bigger scale. I sound like I'm from California. The guys, Terminator, Dark Fate, every sequel, the 4 sequels that we've had, there's been like 6 Terminator movies. There's Terminator 1. There's Terminator 2. I don't even think Terminator 1's called Terminator 1. It's called The Terminator. Terminator 2, Dos, en español, por favor. And then you've got Terminator 2, Terminator 3, 4, 2, 3, 2, Terminator 4, 2, Terminator 5, 2. That's how the Terminator sequels break down. If you're actually being honest with how they're trying to make these movies. Actually, Terminator Salvation tried to bring it to a new level, but did it though? Action adventure comedy, all of it. Will is asking if we're lumping action and adventure together. We're lumping it all together. Catch Me If You Can. Yeah, Jay Exantis and Will had the same thought at the same time. Catch Me If You Can is a great Spielberg movie. It is a great movie. I love that movie. I love the part where he's talking about the little mice and churning the butter. They churn the milk into butter. You know, Christopher Walken, and he's got the necklace. Christopher Walken is such a great actor. This is how you could tell. You look at his face and Catch Me If You Can, and he holds up the necklace and he shows the necklace and he says, and in like within 10 seconds, his face, nothing muscular, no muscles in his face move, but his entire emotion changes. I don't know how he does it. He holds it, and he goes from being excited to surprised to incredibly sad without even moving a muscle. He's a good actor. I don't care what you say about his weird affect that I talked about one time on the show. His speaking affect. It's because he's from a part of Queens where they all talk like that because they're Estonian. Everyone is Estonian in that area. Bizarre. Terminator Salvation rewrote the whole formula. It was a good idea, but missed the spot. It says, "Do not follow me. I'm serious." or I should say do underscore not underscore follow underscore me underscore I'm or im underscore serious. That is one screen name. First of all, that is definitely a screen name that you could just, it just rolls off the tongue. But yeah, that movie Terminator Salvation really tried to flip things and say like it was a person that became the Terminator instead of a Terminator becoming a person, but it's pretty much the worst movie I've ever seen. I'm being hyperbolic. I'm not. The worst movie I've ever seen was probably a movie called Escape Room. I'm going to tell you this story, okay? It's a really good story. I'm going to sit back in my chair, sip my coffee, and tell you the story about Escape Room. I was taken to the premiere of a movie called Escape Room, and it's not the Escape Room that you see. There's like a movie, you go on IMDb and it's called Escape Room. It's not the same Escape Room. It's a different Escape Room. Apparently everybody was on the idea of making an escape room, especially this person who had like this premiere with 200 people were there. It was a huge thing. And we're like, we're going to see Escape Room. My friend's cousin directed it. We're part of it. We got tickets. Let's go see it. Cool. Apparently the guy who wrote and directed Escape Room, my friend's cousin's uncle, they watched a lot of the Saw movies and was like, hey, why don't we just make a Saw movie and call it Escape Room? Because they were in a room and then they had to escape from the room, and in order to escape the room, someone had to die, which is every Saw movie. If you've seen a Saw, if you see Saw, you saw Escape Room. Because this movie was not good. And I was watching this movie and it was not good. And it was bad. Here's why it was bad. Because none of the people on the screen I liked. They were setting them up. Everything down to the production design and the costume was terrible. They were overdressed. These people were wearing like giant shiny rubies and like long sparkly gloves and evening gowns, and then they were eating at like a Sparrow's or something. It was like this weird, it was just not congruous. Nothing about this movie made any sense. So they were all sitting around a table, all these incredibly privileged, overdressed people at a diner or spot that they should not have been. However, I guess the real location fell through that day and they had to run down the street to Yoshinoya. I don't know where the heck they were, but it was not classy. They were overdressed, and I did not like these people for being overdressed. And also, and when they all opened their mouths, nothing changed. I was like, these people are just not likable people. And then, so I was actually happy to watch them all die one by one throughout the movie. They would just get picked off, and I was like, oh, that was good. I'm glad they're dead now. So you don't really want that in a movie. You kind of want to be like, oh, I feel somewhat bad. But I was enjoying watching all these annoying people die throughout the escape room. And then after the movie, here's the sad part. My friend's friend, whose friend's cousin's uncle made the movie, my friend's friend was like, so what'd you think of the movie? And then I had to say, it might have been the worst movie I've ever seen. And they were like, yeah, we didn't like it either. So I didn't feel too bad. But Escape Room, don't watch it. It's terrible. I think you fast forward, actually. If you fast forward a year later or so, my friend was like, hey, it's funny. I just went on a date with this guy, and he was the director of Escape Room. And I was like, you need to raise your standards. Okay? This guy directed Escape Room. You don't want to end up with this guy. Dungeons and Dragons. I don't remember Dungeons and Dragons. I remember the arcade game Dungeons and Dragons that was on a laser disc. So it was all real animation, but there was no control. So you just had to like push a button at the right time so that it would queue up a new animation for the next part of the video game. And I remember it being the coolest game I'd ever seen when I was like an infant. I was a baby child. Yeah, they let me off the hook. They understood that the movie was terrible. The escape room was a terrible movie. I just felt like, how did this person get money and the ability to suck at such a high level, and then someone else is going to give them more money to suck again? This happens. This happens in Hollywood. Failure does not go unrewarded, or something. I made that up. No good deed goes unpunished, as they say. Yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was a weird adventure movie, says Bogani Nguenya. Thank you. I'm thanking myself for pronouncing that right. Yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a weird adventure movie. I love that movie. It's based on the book, and the book is really fun, and the movie is really goofy, and I think Mos Def was an inspired choice to play the alien dude. I like the whole idea of like we need to destroy your planet. It's in the way. It's in the way of they're building an intergalactic highway. That was a good one. Mad Max Fury Road. All the Mad Max movies Tatiana brings up. Good point. Yeah. The Mad Max movies, I'm reading these chats off of my YouTube channel, guys, by the way, AristotleFullThrottle.com. If you want to jump over there, join in that conversation. I got 2 conversations going. We're talking about Dungeons and Dragons on Instagram Live, which was a fun game. And we're also talking about the Mad Max movies. Mad Max. George Miller's amazing. He comes out with a movie at like 890 years old. Everybody's been making movies this whole time, and he says, listen, I'm 900 years old. I know how to make a movie. I've been making Mad Max movies since the 70s. And people are like, okay, Mr. 1,000-year-old man, why don't you try to make a movie? And he makes a movie better than all the other movies like in this whole decade, called Mad Max Fury Road. An insanely intense, fun, incredibly impeccably directed and well-shot movie with incredible stunts. A lot of cool things about that movie. First of all, one of the things, and you'll find this a lot about film theory on the internets, you'll see this a lot, they'll talk about how your eye is guided through that entire movie. So it's so frenetic and there's so many quick cuts in that movie, Mad Max Fury Road, that he's so smart about bringing your focus to a part of the screen so that the next cut, that's where your focus should be. And the next cut, he'll kind of guide you to the next part. So you're not actually losing your mind scanning the screen. You're actually engaged. He's well manipulating what your point of focus is throughout that entire movie. So smart, so well directed. And also, here's a little fun fact. George Miller is a dentist, the guy who directed those movies. He's an actual dentist. Well, dentition just means where your teeth are. Dentist, like he cuts like teeth out of people's heads. He did that for a living, and then he was like, I want to make awesome movies, and then went ahead and did that. Because you can do anything you want, people. You just have to decide to do it. And just like the guy from Escape Room, the director of Escape Room decided he wanted to make a movie. It didn't matter if it was good or not. George Miller happens to be the opposite of that guy. He left dentistry to become a filmmaker. But this is interesting. A little spoiler alert. When the dude gets his face ripped off in the movie, I'm not going to tell you which dude, but when it's all like gross with all the stuff hanging out of his face and the teeth, it's all anatomically accurate because a dentist is like in charge of all the gore. So he's actually knowledgeable of what that should look like. And that's why it's grody to the max. Mad Max. You know, my favorite thing about Mad Max Fury Road, and this is kind of a midpoint spoiler, is that it is an adventure. They're constant, we have to go this way. We have to go this way. We got to keep going this way. So they're just going this way against all odds, against all adversity. They're going that way. And then when they get that way, they're like, oh, damn it. We got to go back that way. So I think that's amazing. It's kind of like the most amazing setup. A lot of people might think that's dumb, but I don't. I think it's amazing. I think you spend half the movie going one way, and then literally the other half of the movie coming back from that way. It's genius. It's genius, I tell you. George Miller is a dental genius. Dungeons and Dragons cartoon was pretty great, says Jimmy James. Jimmy James remembers the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. I liked that cartoon. I mean, the game was consistent with the cartoon. Dungeons and Dragons, the movie. I know it was bad. Ooh, we're going to talk about bad movies tomorrow, actually. Terrible movies. Did you guys like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies? I thought they were good. I was on a date in 2003, and we went and saw Pirates of the Caribbean. And I remember my date, she was like, I don't like this movie. And I was like, really? This movie is so fun. And she was like, I don't know. It's kind of dumb. It's kind of a dumb movie. I don't like it. And then I checked it again about 3/4 of the way through. I'm like, this movie is really fun. She's like, meh. So I feel like I left Pirates of the Caribbean enjoying the heck out of it with someone who just did not like it. And I don't know if that's held true throughout, but I think that first Pirates of the Caribbean movie is super fun and goofy. And I thought that Johnny Depp was amazing in it. I enjoyed that a lot. And I it's funny because you never know. There are people who they pick. Listen, I'm not saying I called Pirates of the Caribbean being a good movie, but at the time they were like, it's based on a ride at Disney World? What? And they made movies based on worse things, like the movie Battleship is based on Battleship, which, by the way, I liked. I liked the movie Battleship. Fight me. Oh, Marlon Wayans was in Dungeons & Dragons. Oh, well, I feel like that's an improvement. If you have Marlon Wayans in a movie, that actually probably makes the movie better in general. However, Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, I'm starting to get flashes of it. I kind of want to reconstruct this movie in my mind without actually looking it up, because I feel like I sort of remember this, but I think it might have been a fever dream from COVID-19. I didn't have COVID-19. By the way, my parents are fully recovered from COVID-19. Not fully recovered, but they're in the clear. They're okay. They're going to live to see another virus. So that's good. My father's back at work. And guess what? 11 other people at his job are out with COVID-19. Because, they don't shut it down. They don't shut down. What the hell is their problem? So let's call the cops on his work. Listen, his work does like a military contract thing. So the military needs electronics, I guess, for blowing stuff up. I don't know. Point is, he's back at work, but half of his work is out. There are 50 employees, and there are 11 people out with COVID-19. So I don't know what it's going to take, people. I think it might take more of me shaming people to stop being idiots. I think that's probably what it's going to take. I honestly do. No, I don't. Nothing's gonna happen. Look out for yourselves. Be careful. Wash your hands. Try to run away from the idiots as far as you can. Elysium. Ooh, yeah. Chappie. That's true. Neil Blomkamp does make those good adventure types of movies. Sorry, guys. I get out of focus on my YouTube channel a lot, which is I gotta have a talk with my camera. I have to have a talk with my servo. Chappie. I do love Chappie. Chappie was good, but it was very short circuit. We had a little talk about short circuit yesterday about how I think it's funny. And when I say funny, I mean sad. I think it's funny that there was a guy named Fisher Stevens who played an Indian roboticist in Short Circuit, who everybody loved. We loved the Indian roboticist in Short Circuit. However, Fisher Stevens is not Indian. He's not from India, nor is he Indian, and has no Indian descent, which is just kind of makes you think they painted this guy brown and he put on an accent that everybody in the 80s was like, this is okay. This is totally fine. It's really sad. What I wonder is, India is a nation of 1 billion people, and not one of them, apparently, according to Hollywood, was available for the role. Sorry, we checked India. There are only 1 billion Indians. We need Fisher Stevens for this part. I mean, really. We'll just paint him brown. Oh, good God. Hollywood. We're still doing it. I mean, Ghost in the Machine sort of has that situation going on. I don't know, man. I don't know. Who knows? Elysium, though. Neil Blomkamp is pretty good. He did Elysium. He did Chappie, District 9. District 9 was cool. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was like The Fly, but in a modern setting. But also watching a guy sort of realize his humanity as he becomes an alien was pretty cool. Are they going to make a sequel to District 9? They should. They basically left it open-ended for a sequel. District 10. Neil Blomkamp was actually working on a lot of concept art for an Alien movie starring Sigourney Weaver and Michael Biehn and a fully adult Newt, which would have been a direct sequel to Aliens. He was developing that and had it ready, and Ridley Scott was like, I want to do this. I want to produce this. Sigourney Weaver was on board. She's like, I'll be Ripley again. I think she was unceremoniously killed in Alien 3 and unceremoniously brought back in Alien Resurrection, and just those movies are bad. Alien Resurrection is bad. There's a line in Alien Resurrection. I don't know if I'm not remembering this correctly, or if I want it to be so, but the line is, Sigourney Weaver says to Winona Ryder in Alien Resurrection, you've done it. You've saved the Earth. And I just think it's the dumbest line. The dumbest line ever. But Neil Blomkamp was working on that art. That's the word I was looking for. It looked pretty cool. I would have liked to have seen a direct sequel to Aliens. I liked Alien 3, though. A lot of people don't like Alien 3. It was directed by David Fincher. It was his first feature film directorial debut, which is very redundant statement. But he was a music video director before that. I was actually a big fan of his music videos. He did like Express Yourself and all these other giant music videos. Fincher went on to make a lot of David Fincher films. He turns out, but I really liked Alien 3. He fought with the studio a lot with Alien 3, and then it kind of turned out into this weird bastardized version of what should be a movie, but I still enjoy the feeling of it. It gives me the creeps. But a lot of people don't like the fact that all of the characters who survive, except for Ripley, all of the characters who survive aliens get killed off for Alien. 2 of them off screen. 3 of them off screen, sort of, because they talk to Bishop halfway through. I thought that was I don't know if it was a missed opportunity. It was just a different choice to make, and perhaps not the best one. those alien movies have such potential because they're so huge in scale, potentially, yet they keep whiffing on these alien movies. Ridley Scott greenlit Neil Blomkamp's Alien sequel, but then actually squashed them because he's like, nah, I'm just going to keep making alien movies with Michael Fassbender. Which he's really pretty much the only reason why to watch Prometheus and Alien Covenant. He's kind of the most compelling part of all of those movies. Meet Joe Black with Brad Pitt. Joe Black. Back to the Future is an all-time great adventure series. Yeah, Back to the Future is a great adventure series. The 80s had a lot of good adventure. Indiana Jones. A lot of people like Indiana Jones. A lot of people don't like Indiana Jones now. They say he was a... They talk about Marion and his relationship with Marion, who he ultimately marries, but a lot of people say how he victimized her because she was like 14 or 15 or something like that. Apparently, they have an argument in Raiders of the Lost Ark that Indiana Jones was not... He was much less than savory with her in their previous relationship or whatever. So people don't like that movie anymore. That was my mom's favorite movie. I talk about my mom's favorite movies. That was her favorite movie up until recently when she rewatched it and was like, whoa. I just caught that he was like victimizing Marion, which is unfortunate. There's a lot of stuff that's unfortunate nowadays, like Short Circuit and the Indian Roboticist. Also, I was watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure the other day, and they used a pejorative, a homophobic pejorative. And I was like, oh man, this movie was almost perfect. But everything we say now is going to be offensive at some point. So that's the problem with recording everything. Everything's being recorded. People are getting mad at your tweets from 12 years ago because they're recording everything. You said something once, and now people are they're mad at you. They remember. You basically, a tweet is like a fart in an elevator that never goes away. You can quote me on that. Yeah. Walter and David, the Walter and David flute. Will says Walter and David and the flute, so weird. Now, I'd like to talk with you about that scene. He's referring to the scene in Alien Covenant where Walter encounters David, and David had been hunkered down on this planet in his own isolation, very much like this, in his own quarantine, kind of going a little nuts. That scene is super important and actually pretty cool. I loved that scene. And David, having sort of a self-awareness and a rebelliousness as a synthetic human, is trying to show Walter. And it's almost like ham-fisted, that scene, in the sense that it's like beating you over the head with the concept that David, who's an identical robot in all intents and purposes to Walter, they're both two robots. David is showing Walter how to play a flute. Not only how to play the flute, but to create his own melody. And that is the point. We can all write our own story. We can all create our own melody in life. We can all dance to the beat of our own drummer. We can all get this party started right. We can all get this party started promptly. Right? I think that's what they say. It's a very important scene. I liked it a lot. I liked that it's kind of teaching the audience, and it's teaching, we're watching a robot teach a robot. We're watching something that was created by man become its own thing and also create its own thing. I don't know. I love those themes, and those themes are in Prometheus. Those themes are in Covenant. Covenant has some really cool body horror, but they are in space. I think I like the cool body horror in Covenant, although some of it's really creepy and weird. I don't know if it's still as inspired as the original Alien. I think it's just now it's just going for shock value, even though the first one did too. But there was at least an internal logic as to how, like, that you had to kind of figure out and follow. Sorry, my lighting. You had to figure out and follow how the aliens reproduce and all that stuff. Now they just keep throwing curveballs at you, and they just sort of make up whatever they want, however the aliens want to exist in Ridley Scott's world. So there's no rhyme or reason to their reproductive habits and whatnot, which is fine. You can do whatever. They're aliens. You can make up whatever you want. I think that that's totally valid. You didn't like the double entendre with David and his twin self? But David's very narcissistic. He doesn't care about anyone else but himself. He only cares about what he is experiencing in a sense. So, of course he would put his flute in someone's mouth that looks just like him, because that's his ultimate fantasy. I think it's a fantastic portrayal of David and Walter. Yeah, I feel like Prometheus and Alien Covenant both fail on a sense of such good themes, but not the greatest execution. Like, I feel like it has such high ambitions with their ideas, but they kind of try to also make a big action Hollywood movie at the same time and not really just lean into the epicness of what you can do with those ideas on their own. Like, people are gonna follow you if you have a good idea. It's just the way it is, baby. Avatar was a great sci-fi alien adventure movie. All right, do not follow me. I'm serious. You're talking about Avatar, right? I saw Avatar once, exactly once. But when I was watching it, I'd realized I'd seen it twice before. Last of the Mohicans and Dances with Wolves. I was like, I've seen this movie once, yet twice already. It's fine. It's a fine movie. It's James Cameron. I have a story about that. It was funny. I was working at this place in between bands. When I was in between bands at the time, I had to work. You know when you call a number and they say, this call might be monitored for quality assurance. I was a quality assurance monitor. I made sure that your call was quality. The way I did that was I listened to the words you said, the agents said. We're paying attention to the agents and how they behave and what they say. If they say, oh no, we can't do that, that's a negative word. You got to write that down, negative word. They said negative things instead of, let me see how I can help you, which is how to positively frame something. Also, here's a fun one. You could fail calls and stuff. We had an auto fail thing, so if you cursed, if you were an agent, you'd get failed immediately. But even still, one of my favorite things it taught me about, this job in general taught me, was about ownership. So if you ever call Verizon or you call someone else that bills you for something, your cable company, and they're like, oh, no, that wasn't me. Oh, I didn't do that. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. You could just go, listen, you need to take ownership, bro. Am I on the phone with Verizon right now? Yeah. Then how come you don't know? So that's a thing. But it taught me overall ownership in life. That you're the reason you do the things you do. Anyone else, maybe they can contribute to how you're feeling about something, but it's ultimately your behavior. It's your behavior, no one else's. So you can own, that's the only thing you have control over. Guys, this is an important lesson in life. Nobody can make you do something. Nobody. You do the thing. My mom taught me that. My mom taught me a lot of things. She's a teacher. Yeah. The point of this story is, one day I was leaving the job, going home, and I was walking out the door, and I had a friend there. He's a comic book artist. His name is Lee Walls. He's actually really good. You should follow him on Instagram. Lee Walls. Leigh Walls. He's good. He said to me at the time, Avatar is coming out in a month. What do you think? I was like, I don't know. It looks weird. It's been in production hell for 4 years. People have been like scoffing at James Cameron's whole concept of 3D, that he wants to change movies. It's all like motion capture, partially animated. It just looks weird. I don't know how to feel about it. But you know what? It's James Cameron. And the same vibe happened right before Titanic came out. So, I don't know. Watch Avatar become like the greatest, the most money-making movie ever made. Watch it make all the money. I literally said, it's James Cameron. Probably going to make all the money. Fast forward 4 months later, biggest grossing movie ever. And that was because I did not count James Cameron out. And I did see the movie. I did pay to see the movie. And I did wear goggles. And I did actually get nauseous at one point when they were flying all over the unobtainium floating islands. I was like, oh, I'm nauseous now. But I'm not going to say I called it, but I definitely called it. And it was because I did not discount James Cameron's ability to change our perceptions of movies. I distinctly remember that because I was pretty sure that James Cameron... So the way I feel about this is like, I think James Cameron's next movies, he's coming out with 4 more Avatar movies. I'm just going to like not have any judgment on those because I'm going to go see them probably. But I'm pretty sure you can't ever count that guy out. Titanic, man. It was supposed to come out in July 1997. It got pushed back 6 months. He gave up all of his salary so that he could make the movie he wanted to make, and then it won all the things. And was the highest grossing film up until his next giant film, Avatar. And that became the highest grossing film. Weird. I have to say Avatar and Fern Gully. Yeah, Will brings up that Avatar is also like Fern Gully. But it's not bad. It's not bad. I keep moving around because my camera forgets what I look like. And it like decides it wants to go out of focus. There it is. 47 Ronin. I haven't seen any of the Ronins. 47. That's a lot of watching. Hero. Jet Li. House of Flying Daggers. Curse of the Golden Flower. Good stuff. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I like that one. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It's got adventure in the title. So it must be excellent. Keanu Reeves. Yeah, Keanu Reeves has become the guy. He's definitely the guy. He's the one person who could probably save all this. He could probably fix all of this. We just give Keanu the keys. Give Keanu the keys. Keanu 2020. I don't know. I feel like if I just went around with a sign that said Keanu 2020, we'd probably solve world peace. Big Trouble in Little China. Good adventure. Good adventure. I had a place that I grew up around called Great Adventure. It was a adventure that was in Jersey. Actually, there was a place by me that was like a really small amusement park. And when I say really small amusement park, I mean lackluster. It's for the meh party people in the house. It was called Adventureland, like the movie, Adventureland. But this place was tiny. It had flying swings, the Gravitron, the pirate ship. And I think that's it. I think it only had 3 rides, and you could like walk back and forth. And that's what we did on Long Island. Is we went to Adventureland, But there's an unfortunate story about Adventureland. One day, someone's flying swing broke, and they died. It's very sad. I mean, though, don't think I'm crazy, but if I were to go like that, I hereby state that for the rest of your life, you can make fun of me. Please. Just say that he was on a flying swing and he flew off the flying swing. It's very unfortunate that this person died and has a family and friends that have since dealt with that, and employees who are traumatized. However, if my death on a flying swing could somehow bring you joy, I encourage that. I would hope that y'all can laugh at that. I would, if I was you and not dead. Six Flags, guys. Yeah, the Buccaneer. Yeah, the Buccaneer was a ride, wasn't it? My brother worked for the carnival. He used to build the Zipper. I never went on the Zipper because it looked like they would put you in a tin can, and then they'd spin that tin can, and then they'd put that tin can on a conveyor belt, and they'd swing that conveyor belt upside down. And I'd said, I don't need that. I'd rather keep my lunch where it is. Did George Clooney direct Adventureland? I feel like Richard Ayoade, my face and hair sake. I think he directed a different movie with Jesse Eisenberg. But Richard Ayoade, funny guy. So Avatar, I'd say the last 20 years is probably one of the big adventure movies, that space epics, space opera. Maverick, Mel Gibson. Maverick, yes, the remake of Maverick. My parents used to watch Maverick when I was growing up. I think it was a TV show. Brad Bird, yeah, he's a great adventure director. He directed Mission Impossible 4 and The Incredibles, I think. I love the Incredibles movies. They're pretty fun. It took so long for that second movie to come out. No worries, Jimmy James. My phone is plugged into the charger right now, just trying to keep things up and up. Sorry that your phone died. Incredibles director Brad Bird. Brad Bird directed The Incredibles. He's a good director, because what he does is he keeps going back in there going, before we animate this, let's make it good. We were talking about animation yesterday. The Incredibles is those are fun. Those are fun movies. Jimmy James, you're working and watching at the same time. Where are you working? I believe that you are... wait, where do you work? Tell us where you work. We want to know. And also, if you've seen Big Trouble in Little China. And also, if you're going to watch the sequel. That movie is so much fun. Is that John Carpenter? I believe that's John Carpenter. He did that movie, which is creepy but also fun. And I hear that he's going to do a sequel. He did Escape from New York, Escape from LA. All of those movies have Kurt Russell in them. You know what? I feel like that was one of the first movies where a well-known director who's known for their sort of artsy kinds of films, or like just sort of high-quality classic style, directed a major Hollywood property. And it was such a big deal when Mission Impossible came out, because they were like, it's directed by Brian De Palma, and that name sounds fancy. That name has like weight to it. De Palma. I mean, come on now. If his name was Brian, like, Smith, people would be like, all right. But don't you realize that Brian Smith directed, I don't know, Notorious? That Brian Smith famous director of all the best movies. Yeah. No, but it's Brian De Palma. B&R Electric. I'm the only warehouse guy who handles all the orders and materials for the guys. Well, good on you, Jimmy James. Hopefully you'll get some friends and fans involved on the Aristotle Full Throttle daily vodcast. I'm going to call it a vodcast. I just made that up. I didn't make that up. AristotleFullThrottle.com. You can subscribe there. You can hang out here. The PS5 is coming out, so by the time I get to 10,000 subscribers, the PS5 is going to be here, so I might as well just give that away. That's going to be the giveaway if you go and subscribe and comment and leave likes and chat away like we have been with like Mr. 5 or Mr. V. Will, Tatiana, Jimmy James, Jake Xantis, all the people here. Judy. Just having a grand old time. Brian De Palma, which Vietnam movies did he do? I'm sure he did a good chunk of Vietnam movies. De Palma. Brian De Palma. I think the 90s was like how cool your name sounded. I mentioned this before. Evan. There's some guy coughing. There's some guy coughing in the hallway. Good God. What a time to be alive. Yeah. In the 90s, they were like, if your name is Evan Dendo and you're in the Lemonheads, which are an excellent band, but really, they've had like 3 or 4 excellent songs. However, I heard the name Evan Dando uttered so many times in the 90s when I was a child. And I was like, they do a cover. They sing another song. They're good, but I don't understand what's so special. Please tell me. I realized it was just his name and how fun it is to say. Kurt Russell movies plus Jimmy James points out that the character Raiden from Mortal Kombat is pretty much based on Big Trouble in Little China, that kind of aesthetic and that deal. I cannot agree with you more. I think they started a lot of what we perceive. I loved when I was a kid. They would jump and then they'd fight in the air, and they would just continue to fight in the air. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that kind of deal. But that's also all the old kung fu movies from back in the day. We just got a few minutes left here on Instagram, so if you want to hop over to YouTube, we'll wrap things up there maybe. But yeah, Goonies. People are talking about Goonies. What an adventure movie that is. That's a great one. Loved it. And it's got all the twists and turns and the feel-goods. And I heard they're going to make a sequel to that, which they could, I guess. But Mr. V says Goonies needs no sequel. Just saying. I would say that no movie needs a sequel. Every movie should be its own movie. Do we want a Goonies sequel? I don't know. I like the first one. If I want to watch a good... I'm that guy, though, now. I've become that guy, especially about the Star Wars movies. I'm like, hey, I saw those original Star Wars movies, and they were good. And then they came out with like 40 movies since then, and none of them really are as good as those original movies, objectively speaking. Yeah, Shang Tsung. Those movies were super fun. Big Trouble in Little China. I do hear that they're going to have like Big Trouble in Little some other place. Big Trouble in Big China. Probably the sequel. Be a good name for it. I'm just putting that out there, Mr. Carpenter. We got about a minute and a half left remaining on the Instagram feed. Remember, guys, this is every day at noon, Aristotle Full Throttle. Just come over. We'll talk about movies. We're going to hang out during the pandemic. This is what we can do at noon, or 1, 2, or 3 if you're in the United States across the different time zones. 3 p.m. Eastern, as it were. I used to be Eastern Standard Time, now I'm Pacific. But I ain't no Greenwich Mean Time, because that doesn't sound friendly. Yeah, you got to watch a movie about 10 times before you like it. Actually, the more we watch movies, the more we actually do like them. It's really true. And I've seen The Last Jedi probably 12 times, and I do like that movie. I really do. Yeah, I love sequels. Sequels are good these days. They used to suck. When we were kids, when I was a kid, and they made a sequel, they just tried to redo the first movie but for cheaper because they knew they would get lots of money, and they would never really spend that much time and effort on making follow-up sequels. They usually would suck. But maybe tomorrow we'll talk about the worst movies and the worst sequels. I'll narrow it down. But guys on Instagram, I'm Aristotle Full Throttle, you bro in the know with the fro. Up, and it's over. We're sorry. Live video ended. Great. Oh, and it won't save. 5 seconds left and it won't save. Great. Perfect. But guys, on YouTube, this will save. So if you guys want to watch the replay of this will be up on my YouTube channel, on my live feeds, my live videos. I'm gonna like lean back now and we're just gonna have like a nice casual 5 minutes just hanging. Maybe more. I'm in no rush. I do have to call the car company back though. They were trying to call me during the first call on my phone, but I'm using my phone already. Tron Legacy. I like Tron Legacy. I like both Tron movies. I think that they're really good. I kept asking my buddies, the box liners, I was like, hey guys, I remember this maybe 7 years ago. It's like, are they going to make another Tron? Are they going to make it? I would be very excited. I wanted to know. And it was in like lots of development. And then Disney was going to make Tron and put a lot of money into making several more Tron movies. However, they purchased a small property called Star Wars and then reprioritized, which is unfortunate for Tron because I thought Tron was pretty good. And Tron was one of Disney's biggest properties as far as it still is as sci-fi adventure. So much fun. The Princess Bride. How did we go this whole hour without bringing up The Princess Bride? That is a fun movie. Iocane powder. I think about that every time I drink coffee or any kind of beverage. I'm like, someone could be poisoning me. I'm just kidding. I'm not that paranoid. But I thought to myself, iocane powder. That sounds delicious. Why don't I train my body to become resistant to that? Favorite part of Princess Bride. Yeah, they should rethink neglecting Tron, I think, because I don't know. I loved that concept. I think it was I think the sequel was good. I think people didn't understand that it was a sequel when it came out, which is funny. There were a lot of youngins who were like, I didn't quite understand some of the things. And I'm like, well, did you watch the first one? And they said, well, there was a first one? Oh, yeah. That's the whole point. I did like it. I think it was amazing and inspired that Daft Punk did the soundtrack and was in it. Pretty cool. Daft Punk is playing at my house. Miyazaki. Yeah, Tron was I don't know. There's like such a good mythos that you can build in that. I always find it funny that the main character of the Tron movies isn't necessarily the titular character, which is interesting. It's usually, and Tron inside the Tron game and inside the Tron thing is kind of the legend. It's interesting. Just an interesting, seriously important thing to discuss, really. But yeah, there were supposed to be several more Tron movies. I liked the idea I liked how Tron ended, where he took her out of the game because then you took Sorry, spoiler alert. Um, I like when there's a big reversal like that. That's why I have to catch up on Westworld. I've only been watching Wayne's World up until this point, but I need to catch up on Westworld because I know that things get cooler because they come out of the Westworld. And the first season, I just got like, I'm like, how much more of this can I take? And it turns out, not that much because I stopped watching it. Yeah, no Tron, no Matrix, no Tron, no a lot of things actually. That's what I thought of when I watched The Matrix. That's what I thought of when I watched. I don't know. I feel like there were so many different levels to it back in the day. It's very true. No Tron, no Matrix, no Total Recall, no Matrix, no Alice in Wonderland, no Matrix, no War Games, no Matrix. No, like you just keep going down the line of how the Matrix synthesized so much of what was going on at the time before it. You know, that's no Superman, no Matrix. Lots of different movies. And the Matrix is really a compilation of 30 or 40 years of movies before it, and then taking everything and combining it. The thing I love about the Matrix, and this is what I'll go out on, I guess, today, is a couple things about the Matrix. A lot of things about the Matrix I love. I loved that they really pushed forward visual effects because Tron, this is a sad but true story, was not nominated for an Oscar for special effects because they considered computer effects. They didn't have a category for visual effects. They only had a category for special effects. And I believe there's a distinction. If you use special effects, it's some kind of camera trick or it's some kind of on-camera situation. But the visual effects that they were using, the VFX, the computer-generated imaging in Tron was not considered nominatable in any category, so they didn't nominate it, and it should have won for that year because these special effects are freaking incredible. Sadly, fast forward about 20 years, the Strokes stole our idea. My band at the time wanted to make a video. We wanted to make a music video in the aesthetic of Tron, and we wanted to fully be like in Tron suits, doing Tron things, glowing, and like have a storyline to our video. And then the Strokes just stole the concept and dressed themselves. You can watch the video. It's online. The Strokes, just Google Strokes Tron. And they're just glowing and they're just standing there singing. And there's no story. There's no action. There's no reason they're in the Tron aesthetic other than they just are. And we were very highly disappointed by that because we thought it was a missed opportunity. We could have been making a really cool video that looked like the movie Tron and had a storyline. But the Strokes, man. Julian Casablanca's father is the head of a modeling agency, so he got to grow up and just go, hey, Dad, I want to be Tron. And then they said, okay. The thing about The Matrix that I love is that they pushed forward the special effects, the visual effects. The bullet time is actually photographed. There's 180 cameras or so, maybe 50, 60 cameras. I don't know how they did it. But so they were all programmed to shoot in succession or all at the same time. And then you'd have every different angle of the person doing the action in bullet time or frozen. And then they would digitally morph each photo together, digitally stitch them. So it's like this perfect representation of a human moving at very slow speeds or like, and so you can actually do a camera move while they're in slow motion or frozen in the air. You can do a camera move. Really cool stuff. However, at the same time, that year, I believe 1999 was when Star Wars Episode 1 came out. And that's when The Matrix came out. When Star Wars Episode 1 came out, George Lucas said, I want to make a movie that uses the special effects that they use in Jurassic Park. George Lucas looked at the groundbreaking visual effects of Jurassic Park and said, Jurassic Park, I love this. This is amazing. I want to make the new Star Wars movies, based on this technology that you Steven Spielberg made Jurassic Park with. These visual effects, these computer generated images. I want full characters that are CG. I want all of this in my movie. Problem was, that was 1993 technology. So in 1993, George Lucas saw Jurassic Park and said, I want to make the future of movies based on 1993 technology. And by 1999, when that came along, the Wachowskis had the genius to be like, why don't we invent even newer visual effects for this next movie? Because Jurassic Park is already 6 years old at this point. We can up everything. We can kick it up a notch, as the chef would say. Let's kick it up a notch. Bam. Legas. So they did that. They created new effects, new visual effects, and much to my satisfaction, won Best Visual Effects for the Oscar for The Matrix that year over Star Wars, even though Star Wars had I'm pretty sure this is true. If I'm not, let me know. But they won the Best Visual Effects, even though George Lucas used tons of 1993 technology in Episode 1 to create Jar Jar Binks. And Jar Jar Binks, as we all know, is the key to all of this. Jar Jar Binks is the key to all of this. And that's what I love about The Matrix. It was always an idea of pushing movies forward. George Lucas, unfortunately, is no longer on that train. He was with the original Star Wars. He wanted to push film forward. George Lucas's whole concept, James Cameron's whole concept of filmmaking, is to create new technologies to push the medium forward. And that's what James Cameron has always done and continues to do. And that's what George Lucas did with the original Star Wars, and probably throughout the 80s a little bit, but then didn't really push the medium forward. I mean, he did with the Star Wars movies because he set a new precedent for how much visual effects we can deal with in a movie, because there's 27,000 visual effects shots in the original Star Wars and Star Wars Episode 1. If that movie did anything, it changed the landscape for what we expect with visual effects, and employed tons and tons of visual effects artists. So this is why artistry is good. Be an artist, become an artist, do art, do things, because they need you. And this is why I love Hollywood movies, because a lot of people hate them, but I'm like, do you realize how many artists they employ? Next time, sit and watch the credits of the next big budget movie you go see. Or if you ever decide to go see, because a lot of people are like, I just like small films. And I'm like, okay, that's cool too. However, when you go see Avengers Endgame and you sit through the credits and it's 10 minutes long, each one of those people is employed. Each one of those people is an artist in their own right. And I think that art's hard. Art is hard. If you can get a job doing art, all the power to you. And with that, guys, I'm going to head out. I'm going to probably do some push-ups and sit-ups, probably drink some water, maybe try, and I'm going to work on my backflips. I'm going to work on all my backflipping. Yeah, I agree with you, Will. The Matrix definitely deserved the win. Oh, good point. Inception. Christopher Nolan is also someone who likes to push the medium forward. He does lots of crazy stuff, like all of that stuff in the beginning of some great stuff, some amazing things to behold. All right, Will, Tatiana, Jimmy James, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm Aristotle, full throttle, your bro in the know with the fro. And I'll see you later. I'm going to wait till that buffers, because I feel like my sign-off doesn't get... it doesn't end up on the stream. So I'm just going to hang in there for a couple more seconds. All right. I'm going to wait till... I'm just staring into space.